Well, I have to tell you that I had an Easter message for you that was all written. It was actually done before the end of the week, which is rare for me to have my sermon done so early. And I was excited. It had some appropriate humor, here and there. A couple of verses from a poem, a poignant story, all the stuff that one would like on Easter Sunday morning when we all get dressed up and get together. And someday I'm going to preach that sermon for you. But I realized that it was a scary time when Jesus was killed. The disciples didn't know if they'd be next. Kind of like some people walking around Tulsa, Oklahoma the last couple of days. The disciples lived in fear, looking over their shoulders, scared to walk outside. Sound familiar? That is until Easter, when they realized that life had a larger purpose than fear. They realized that we're on this earth to be instruments of love and peace. But don't misunderstand, that's not the story they wanted to be in. That's not how the story was supposed to go. As they understood it, Jesus was supposed to save the world by bringing peace and justice to the oppressed, clothing the naked, and feeding the hungry. But instead, they find themselves in a world that is not saved. A world filled with pain and problems and illness and violence, and they're afraid. Their illusion that life is going to be a rose garden or a Garden of Eden in their lifetime is gone. Just as the events of the past days here in Tulsa have been a reminder to us that the world we live in is not Eden. We live in a world that is spectacularly beautiful in all its colors, the buds on all the trees and flowers, the sunsets, the moon glowing, the stars. But it also contains random acts of violence, and violence perpetrated by people who don't like the way other people look, or because of what other people believe, or who they love. Like the disciples, this is not the story we want to be in either. We'd like a Messiah to come clean it all up. Or at least a president. Right? We might even settle for a truly great civil rights leader like Martin Luther King, anyone who can make the world whole. But like the disciples, on that Friday, when the news of his death, when many of us learned about the news of the deaths in our community over this weekend, we ourselves became afraid for ourselves, our neighbors, our companions, our co-workers, the children in our adopted school, our own children. The story is not one we want or expect to be living in the 21st century in America. Or maybe it is the one you expect. Maybe it seems all too predictable, all too familiar. But admit it, even you had your hopes up that maybe soon we were going to be living in a new story. And now your hopes may feel dashed because it feels like the same old story. But remember, on Easter, something happened that made the disciples realize that the new world that they thought was at hand, just at hand, was not something that was going to be made for them. If it was going to come, they were going to have to do their part. Their work was to go out and sow love and justice. They were going to have to be an example by how they lived and what they said and what they did. They were going to have to go out and make disciples of other people who would also believe in and dedicate themselves to such love and justice. We are so much like them. We want a world where hatred and injustice is gone. And we're not happy when we find out that we are the ones that have to make it. We want someone else to do it. We want a cure for cancer, but we're not thrilled to realize that we're the ones that have to discover it, that have to support the organizations that are trying to discover it, to educate our children so that they can grow up and discover it, take the experimental medicines and all the things to make it so. We want health care for everyone, but we're not excited when we realize that that means that we're the ones that need to pay for it. We want to put an end to abuse, addiction, abduction, adultery, and all the rest. And the only way that it's going to happen is if we become an example of how it can happen and make disciples in the name of all things good. On that Saturday, the disciples lived in shock, anger, sadness, and fear. On Saturday, it seemed like a boulder had been rolled up against the entrance to a just world that they had believed in, a world that seemed so close and so right. On Saturday, it seemed like that world that is how it has always been, and things are never going to change on Saturday. But when Easter came, they finally knew what they had to do. On this weekend of extraordinary violence in our community, may you and I recommit ourselves to being disciples of the cause of greater understanding. May you and I let go of the fantasy that someone else is going to do it for us. May you and I refuse to live in fear and hiding, or to let any of our neighbors have to live in fear and hiding. But instead, may we feel empowered to be the change we want to see. This is an incredible moment for Tulsa, Oklahoma. Almost exactly 91 years ago, the north part of Tulsa was terrorized by violence. Relations between the races have never been the same. And there's a lot of distrust. We heard that, those who listen to the news, CNN, MSNBC. You could hear it in the news, in the voices of our leaders talking about there's some distrust. Will the police do the right thing? Will the police protect the people? It's like the guard in the story of the Easter story who's sent to guard the tomb. Sometimes the guards who are there to protect one side aren't really there, in this case, for the disciples. They weren't the friends of the disciples in that story. But we can be part of making a new story here in this community. Now, I learned this morning that they captured the perpetrators of this crime. How about that? So those two are off the streets. But it also reminds us that there are people who will target other people in our community, which means that we have to be ever more committed to creating the world that we want to live in, that we know is possible, all of us together. Now, I will tell you, I've been impressed by the mayor of Tulsa and his response, the chief of police. We got to give credit where credit's due. Jack Henderson, the city councilor for that district, the NAACP, and the leaders within the African American community who came and said the right things, did the right things, restored calm, told people to let the authorities do their work and to get out there and do it, and they did it, and they caught the people who were terrorizing our city and our citizens. Let us continue to demonstrate the kind of love and justice that we can be proud of in this city to create a new day. Now, before I knew that they had caught the perpetrators of this, when I went to bed last night, I really, in my heart, I wanted to cancel the services this morning. And I wanted to invite all of us to go down into the north side and just create a human chain that just allowed people to feel safe walking to their churches in the morning, because people didn't feel safe walking around. And then I thought, and then Monday, as our kids go back to school and the kids in our adopted schools go back, we wanted to make sure all of those kids felt safe walking to school. So I was going to get us all to come out there and walk with them and make sure that they knew that they are not alone, that we will stand with them. Today at 1 o'clock in the church on North Peoria Church of Christ, over at 2217 North Peoria, just the street that we're on right here, but just a little further north, up about 5 blocks past Pine Street, is the North Peoria Church of Christ. And my colleague there, Reverend Blakeney, will be holding a prayer vigil, a short prayer vigil, with the families of those who were harmed over the weekend. And I plan to go at 1 o'clock, and I invite any of you to come. I know a lot of people have plans, there's a lot going on, it's Easter, but if you can come, I think it would be incredible if they saw all these white folks and people of all different races and colors from all parts of town. But this is a significant gesture, but it's only a small gesture. The real work is the ongoing work to make our city safe and help all citizens feel embraced and included and valued. Now, in a few moments, you'll walk out of this church and go on with your life. Like the story that we've been reading through the Easter season, none of us know how the story of our lives is going to end. But we do know that right now we can make choices and make a difference in this world. The truth is, the truth of Easter, the truth that we shared today is that we need to be the change that we want to see. That's what the disciples learned on Easter morning a long time ago. And if we do, then indeed Jesus Christ has risen today. If we do, then the love and courage and hope that some would like to have destroyed and entombed will walk again upon the earth and be seen and be touched. Fear won't stop it. Death can't conquer it. That immense love and courage will take a body with real arms and real legs and will breathe again in your heart, in your life. Rise up, my friends. Rise up. Rise up. And recommit on this Easter morning to living a life that you can be proud of, to making a difference, making an impact, making this community safe, creating a new community in Tulsa, Oklahoma. This is not 1921, and it never will be again, not if we have anything to say about it. Nobody's going to terrorize the black community, the Hispanic community, the gay community. I don't care. No one's going to discriminate against Tulsa without everybody rising up and coming together across all of our differences to say, not here, no way. Already we're hearing about reports in cities about the police and the communities of color and different things going on and going wrong. But we got it right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma this weekend. Let's keep it going. Let's keep the pressure on for people to live up to a better way of being in this world. That's how the kingdom of heaven comes down to earth. So let us be the change we want to see. It's up to you. It's up to me. If we want a world that's just and free. God bless you. Happy Easter. I love you. Amen.